Most people think they know exactly how they would react if they met Mike Tyson. Some imagine they'd ask for a photo. Others think they'd be too nervous to speak. But one nightclub bouncer made a very different decision. He put his hands on Mike Tyson and tried to force him out of the building. What happened next wasn't a fight. It wasn't a knockout. And it wasn't what anyone in that club expected. In fact, the lesson that followed would stay with that bouncer for years. Because sometimes the biggest mistakes don't happen because of bad intentions. They happen because we make assumptions about people we don't know. And on this particular night, one assumption changed everything. The city was alive long after midnight. Music spilled from crowded clubs. Taxi lights moved through the streets like streams of color. Groups of friends laughed outside restaurants, while others searched for the next place to continue their night. It was the kind of evening that felt ordinary, at least in the beginning. A popular nightclub downtown was operating at full capacity. The dance floor was packed. The line outside stretched around the corner. Inside, staff members moved quickly between customers, while security worked to keep everything under control. One of those security guards was a man named Ryan. Ryan had worked nightclub security for nearly 6 years. He was dependable, professional, and proud of his reputation. The job wasn't easy. Every weekend brought new challenges. Drunk customers, arguments, occasional fights, people refusing to follow rules. Most nights required patience more than strength. But Ryan had learned something important. Hesitation could create bigger problems. When situations developed, he preferred to act quickly. Usually, that approach worked. Usually, that evening had already been stressful. Several incidents had occurred before midnight. Nothing serious. Just enough to leave everyone slightly exhausted. Ryan wanted the night to end without another problem. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, a black SUV stopped near the entrance. The vehicle wasn't particularly flashy. No crowd gathered around it. No photographers appeared. No attention at all. A man stepped out and began walking toward the entrance. He wore simple clothing, dark jacket, plain shirt. Nothing designed to attract attention. He wasn't trying to look important. He wasn't trying to be noticed. In fact, he looked like someone hoping to enjoy a quiet evening. That man was Mike Tyson. Over the years, Tyson had experienced nearly every level of fame imaginable. There were periods when crowds followed his every move. Times when simply entering a building created chaos. But fame changes. Life changes. People change. Tyson had reached a point where he valued normal experiences more than attention. He enjoyed being around people, listening, observing, living. Not every night needed cameras. Not every moment needed headlines. Sometimes he just wanted to enjoy himself like everyone else. As Tyson approached the entrance, several people recognized him immediately. A few whispered to friends. Others glanced twice to confirm what they thought they saw. But nobody caused a scene. Everything remained calm. Inside the entrance area, Ryan was focused on another situation. Two customers were arguing about line access. One claimed he had a reservation. The other insisted he arrived first. Neither wanted to back down. By the time Ryan resolved the disagreement, his patience was already wearing thin. Then another staff member approached him. Someone's trying to come through the side entrance. Ryan sighed. The side entrance was restricted. Only staff and approved guests could enter that way. Every weekend people attempted to use it. Some genuinely misunderstood. Others intentionally ignored the rules. Either way, Ryan headed toward the entrance immediately. As he turned the corner, he spotted a man approaching the door. The lighting was poor. Music vibrated through the walls. People moved constantly through the hallway. Ryan didn't get a good look at the man's face. What he saw instead was someone walking toward a restricted area. In his mind, the situation was already clear. Another customer trying to bypass the line. Another problem. Another interruption. Without thinking much further, Ryan stepped forward. "Sir, you can't come through here." Tyson stopped. "No problem." His voice was calm, relaxed, friendly. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't demanding special treatment. He simply stopped walking. Had the conversation ended there, nobody would remember the night. But stress has a way of affecting judgment. Ryan believed the man was continuing toward the entrance. Whether he misunderstood the movement or reacted too quickly, nobody could say for sure. What happened next lasted less than 2 seconds. Ryan reached out and placed a hand on Tyson's shoulder. Not aggressively, not violently, but firmly. The gesture instantly changed everything. Nearby staff members froze. One hostess looked up immediately. Another security guard turned around. Several guests noticed. For a moment, nobody spoke. Not because they expected violence. Because they recognized Mike Tyson. And they knew Ryan did not. Ryan still hadn't realized who stood in front of him. To him, this was simply another customer refusing instructions. Then Tyson slowly turned his head. He looked directly at Ryan. Not angry, not offended, just surprised. The expression on Tyson's face carried an almost simple question. Why are you touching me? Suddenly Ryan's confidence disappeared. Recognition arrived like a lightning strike. The face, the eyes, the unmistakable features known around the world. His stomach dropped instantly. Every muscle in his body tightened. The realization was immediate. He had just put his hand on Mike Tyson. The same Mike Tyson whose fights he watched growing up. The same Mike Tyson whose knockouts appeared in countless highlight videos. The same Mike Tyson whose name remained one of the most recognizable in sports history. Time seemed to stop. Ryan removed his hand immediately. Oh my God. The words escaped before he could stop them. Tyson remained calm. It's okay. But Ryan was already embarrassed. Deeply embarrassed. Not because he feared Tyson. Because he realized he had handled the situation poorly. Professional security work required respect, communication, awareness. And in his frustration, he had skipped all three. The surrounding staff exchanged nervous glances. Nobody knew what would happen next. Stories involving famous athletes often escalated unnecessarily. Egos got involved. Arguments followed. Videos appeared online. People picked sides. But Tyson surprised everyone. Instead of creating a scene, he smiled slightly. You doing your job? Ryan nodded awkwardly. Trying to. Tyson chuckled. The tension instantly eased. Several people laughed quietly. The atmosphere changed completely. What could have become an uncomfortable confrontation suddenly felt human. Normal. Two people having a conversation. Nothing more. Ryan apologized. Genuinely. Not because Tyson was famous. Because he knew he had acted too quickly. Tyson listened. Then nodded. No worries. 3 simple words. No lecture. No anger. No attempt to embarrass anyone. Just understanding. For Tyson, situations like this weren't new. Fame creates strange interactions. People sometimes overreact. Others underestimate you. Some become nervous. Some become overly confident. Over time, Tyson learned that most misunderstandings weren't personal. Most people were simply doing their best with the information they had. And Ryan certainly wasn't a bad person. He was a tired employee trying to manage a difficult environment. The mistake wasn't malicious. It was human. The club manager arrived moments later. Someone had already informed him what happened. His face looked concerned. Very concerned. The last thing any manager wanted was a misunderstanding involving a celebrity. He apologized repeatedly. Tyson waved it away. Everything's fine. The manager looked relieved. Ryan looked even more relieved. But the night wasn't over. As Tyson entered the club, word spread surprisingly fast. Within minutes, staff members throughout the building knew what happened. Not because it was dramatic, because it was unusual. People expected stories involving Mike Tyson to include aggression, conflict, intensity. Instead, the story involved patience, kindness, perspective. Those details caught people's attention. Inside the club, Tyson found a quiet table and spent time with friends. Nothing extraordinary happened. He laughed, talked, enjoyed the music. From a distance, he looked like any other customer enjoying an evening out. Meanwhile, Ryan continued working. But his thoughts kept returning to the encounter. Not because he feared consequences. Because something about Tyson's reaction stayed with him. Many people in Tyson's position could have responded differently. Some would have demanded an apology. Others might have complained to management. A few would have created a public scene. Tyson chose none of those options. He recognized a mistake for what it was. A mistake. Nothing more. As the evening progressed, Ryan found himself paying closer attention to people. Not faces. Not appearances. People. The experience reminded him how easy it was to make assumptions, especially in fast-moving environments. He had seen a man approaching a restricted entrance and immediately decided who that man was. He never paused long enough to gather more information. He never gave the situation space. Instead, he relied on assumptions. And assumptions almost always create problems. Around closing time, Tyson prepared to leave. As he approached the exit, he noticed Ryan again. The bouncer stood near the door, helping customers leave safely. Tyson walked over. Ryan looked surprised. "You survived the night?" Tyson joked. Ryan laughed. "Barely." For a few moments they talked. Nothing dramatic. Nothing profound. Just a simple conversation between two people. Before leaving, Tyson shared a thought. One sentence. A sentence Ryan would remember for years. He said, "People usually show you who they are if you give them a chance." Then Tyson shook his hand and walked away. The sentence seemed simple at first, but the more Ryan considered it, the more meaningful it became. Because that's exactly what he hadn't done earlier. He hadn't given Tyson a chance. He had created a story in his head before the interaction even began. A story based on assumptions. And for a brief moment, that story became reality. The following weeks passed normally. Life continued. Customers came and went. Music played. Weekends remained busy. But Ryan noticed something changing in his approach. He slowed down. Not physically. Mentally. He listened more carefully. Asked more questions. Made fewer assumptions. The difference was remarkable. Conflicts decreased. Conversations improved. People responded positively. The job became easier. Not because customers changed. Because he changed. Years later, Ryan would occasionally tell the story to new employees. Not as a funny celebrity encounter. Not as a bragging story. As a lesson. He'd explain how easy it is to misjudge people. How dangerous assumptions can become. And how respect often solves problems faster than authority. The story always surprised listeners. Especially younger employees. Most expected a different ending. A dramatic confrontation. A famous knockout artist losing his temper. A viral headline. Instead, they heard about patience, understanding, self-control. In many ways, that's why the story remained memorable. Because it challenged expectations. The world often associates strength with force, with dominance, with intimidation. Yet some of the strongest people display the opposite qualities. Patience, humility, restraint. The ability to remain calm when circumstances encourage anger. Tyson demonstrated those qualities that night. Not perfectly. Not because he was trying to teach a lesson. Simply because experience had changed him. The older Tyson understood something younger Tyson spent years learning. Not every challenge deserves a response. Not every mistake requires punishment. And not every misunderstanding needs to become a conflict. Sometimes people need grace. Sometimes they need understanding. And sometimes they simply need an opportunity to correct a mistake. Ryan received that opportunity. And he never forgot it. Looking back, the most interesting part of the story isn't that a bouncer accidentally grabbed Mike Tyson's shoulder. It's what happened afterward. Nothing happened. No fight. No yelling. No humiliation. No revenge. Just two people choosing respect over conflict. That choice transformed an embarrassing moment into a meaningful one. In today's world, stories often become popular because they show people at their worst. But the stories that stay with us longest usually reveal people at their best. This was one of those stories. A story about assumptions. A story about patience. A story about growth. And perhaps most importantly, a story about humanity. Because beneath the fame, the headlines, the championships, and the reputation, Mike Tyson is still a human being. And beneath the uniform, the responsibility, and the pressure, Ryan was too. The moment one recognized the humanity of the other, everything changed. No knockout was needed. No lesson had to be forced. It happened naturally, through understanding, through perspective, through a simple decision to treat another person with dignity. And in the end, that's why the story continues to resonate. Not because a bouncer grabbed Mike Tyson's shoulder, but because Mike Tyson responded in a way nobody expected. A way that proved real strength isn't always about what you can do. Sometimes it's about what you choose not to do. And for everyone who witnessed that moment, that lesson was far more powerful than any punch could have been.